You know, the greatest strategic failure in leadership today is something I call the wellness trap. It's this belief that you can solve team burnout with things like days off and meditation apps, all while completely ignoring the fact that your bad operational systems are literally draining your team's brains. Just think about that for a second. We see the exhaustion, we see the missed deadlines, and our first instinct is to treat the symptom. Let's offer a yoga class. But the real problem isn't a lack of yoga, it's the 100 tiny paper cuts that our systems inflict on our team's focus every single day. The constant switching between apps, the endless search for the right file, those vague instructions, each one forces a micro-decision, and it all adds up to this state of chronic decision fatigue. So today, we're going to dismantle that trap. We're not just talking about wellness, we are going to architect it directly into our operations, building a system that protects your team's most valuable asset, their focus.
So here's the big paradox we really have to get our heads around. We've all been led to believe that just working hard is what causes burnout. But the truth is, neurologically speaking, it's not the work itself. It's bad systems that cause burnout. Picture this. Your team is working on a huge new product launch. The energy's high, the mission is clear, they're in a total state of flow. They might work a 10, maybe even a 12-hour day. And at the end of it, they feel amazing, accomplished, energized. Now, compare that to a simple 2-hour task like compiling a weekly report. But to do it, they've got to pull data from 3 different platforms that don't even talk to each other, hunt down the latest template from some chaotic shared drive, and then wait 2 days for an approval from a manager who's always in meetings. That 2-hour task will leave them feeling more drained than 12 hours of deep, meaningful work. See, it's not the effort, it's the friction. And this brings us right to what I call the great wellness trap. It's this vicious cycle of misdiagnosing a system problem as a people problem. We keep trying to slap these band-aids on the symptoms, the exhaustion, the disengagement, but the root cause is so much deeper. It's operating silently in our daily workflows. It's this invisible force, a kind of operational friction that I call cognitive drag. Think of it as the sum total of all those tiny, frustrating hurdles that get in the way of the actual work. You know, the constant pings from 5 different chat apps, those disorganized file systems that feel like a digital maze, and the endless email chains where crucial information just goes to die. And it's this cognitive drag that we are going to learn how to spot, how to measure, and most importantly, how to eliminate. So let's put a really clear definition on this, because cognitive drag is the real enemy here. It's the invisible mental energy you lose just fighting a confusing, fragmented, or inefficient system. It's the mental tax your team has to pay just to navigate your company's chaos before they can even start the high-value work they were actually hired to do. Think about the energy they burn just trying to get a straight answer, or the focus that's shattered every time a non-urgent notification pops up. Every single one of those moments is a small withdrawal from their bank of cognitive resources. And over a day, a week, a month, these little withdrawals add up to a massive energy leak. This is exactly why a team can feel completely wiped out without ever touching the work that truly excites them. This is the leak we have to plug.
Okay, so now that we've named the enemy, how do we find it? Well, we have to learn to diagnose the friction in our own systems. And this means a huge shift in our perspective as leaders. You see, most leaders, and they mean well, are managing the wrong thing entirely. They're so focused on the finish line, the quarterly targets, the deadlines, the outputs, that they completely ignore the condition of the racetrack itself. They just don't see the systemic potholes, the confusing turns, or all the unnecessary hurdles that are slowing everyone down. And so, when performance dips, their only tool is to crack the whip and yell, "Run faster," without ever fixing the broken track that's causing the problem in the first place. And this slide just lays it out perfectly. On the left, you've got your traditional brute force management. Imagine a team misses a deadline. The brute force manager's first move is to call a meeting and ask, who's responsible for this? They see the output, the missed deadline, and they apply pressure to the people. Work harder, be more dedicated. It automatically assumes people are the problem. But on the right, you've got the paradigm shift, operational load management. The OLM leader sees that same missed deadline, but their question is completely different. They ask, what in our system allowed this to happen? Was there a bottleneck? Were the requirements unclear? They manage the inputs. They see the system as the problem to be solved, not the people. Now, here's the part that's truly staggering: the sheer scale of this problem. This isn't just a small annoyance, it is a massive drain on your entire organization. Research consistently shows that in a lot of companies, knowledge workers spend up to 40% of their time on what we call invisible labor. I mean, let that sink in for a second, 40%. That means for nearly half their day, their salary, their potential, it isn't going towards innovation or problem solving. It's just being burned to manage the internal chaos. To put it another way, for every 5 people on your team, you're basically paying 2 of them just to fight the friction in your own broken processes.
That is a colossal waste of talent, energy, and money. So what does this 40% of invisible labor actually look like day to day? Well, it's everything on this list. Let's say you need to create a presentation. First, you've got to find the latest company template, which is probably buried in one of 7 different folders, all vaguely named marketing decks. That's a cognitive switch. Then you need sales figures, so you send an email. And wait, while you're waiting, a Slack notification pops up with an urgent request that completely pulls your attention away. That's another switch. By the time you get back to the presentation, you've totally lost your train of thought. To our brains, every single one of these interruptions is like a little cognitive hit. It just depletes our executive function, that precious resource we need for deep, complex thinking. So here is the most crucial point. We have to reframe this whole conversation. We have to stop using words like burnout problem or resilience issue. Why? Because those terms imply it's a personal failing. They suggest the problem is with the individual, that they're just not strong enough or organized enough. And not only is that wrong, it's incredibly demoralizing. You're blaming people for problems the system created. Instead, we have to call it what it is, an engineering flaw. You don't have a burnout problem. You have a load leak in your operational architecture. It's time to fix the machine, not blame the operator. Okay, so how do we fix the machine? We need a blueprint. We can't just throw a simple checklist at this because the sources of friction are always changing. What we need is a systematic, repeatable process that is designed to constantly find and eliminate this drag. And that blueprint is what I call the friction reduction loop. It's a 3-part framework that acts as a total structural reset for how work gets done, moving your team from a state of reactive chaos to one of proactive clarity. Let's walk through the 3 core tiers of this loop. First up is the cognitive switching audit. This is where we become detectives, hunting down the focus tax our systems are charging our team. Second, we build asynchronous buffer systems. This is where we intentionally reclaim time for deep work by cutting down on our real-time dependencies. And third, we establish perfect input guardrails, where we eliminate all the ambiguity at the source, making sure every task is crystal clear from the get-go. Together, these 3 steps create a protective bubble around your team's focus and energy. All right, let's dive into step 1, the cognitive switching audit. This is a super practical, hands-on exercise. You literally sit down with your team and map out a common task, like onboarding a new client, and you count. You count every single time someone has to switch between different tools or tabs or windows to get that one job done. I promise you, you are going to be shocked by what you find. The goal here is to be ruthless. Collapse your tech stack. If you have 3 tools that do basically the same thing, pick one and kill the others. Centralize everything into a single source of truth, a project management tool, a wiki, whatever. The tool itself matters less than the principle. One place where everyone knows to find the right information. That alone dramatically reduces mental friction. Next up, step 2, building asynchronous buffer systems. This is all about breaking our addiction to real-time, always-on communication. We have to execute what I call synchronous to asynchronous pivots. For instance, instead of a daily 30-minute status meeting that just interrupts everyone's morning, you pivot to an automated dashboard that gives a real-time overview of progress. People can check it on their own time. Instead of an urgent, context-free Slack DM that demands an immediate reply, you pivot to a structured task in a tool like Asana or Trello. This ensures every request has the right context and doesn't derail someone's focus. This gets rid of that interruption anxiety, that feeling that you have to be available 24/7, and it creates the space for those deep work blocks where the real progress actually happens. And finally, we have step 3, perfect input guardrails. And honestly, this might be the most powerful step of them all. You mandate a definition of ready for all work. It's a simple rule, but it is profound. No task is ever assigned to anyone unless it is 100% ready to be worked on. That means all the data, all the context, all the assets are attached right from the start. For example, a definition of ready for a designer might require the final approved copy, the exact dimensions, and the brand style guide. This completely eliminates that soul-crushing back and forth of chasing down information, which is a huge source of decision fatigue. It just makes the path from starting a task to finishing it perfectly clear. Now, it's really important to understand that this framework isn't just a bunch of good project management ideas. It is deeply rooted in cognitive neuroscience. It works because it's designed to align with how our brains actually function, instead of fighting against our natural limits. As leaders today, it's not enough to just manage people and projects. We have to understand the cognitive processes that drive focus, and then become architects of systems that support them. So let's look at the science that makes all of this work so well. So the first key principle here is cognitive load theory.
Put simply, our brains are like a computer with a finite amount of RAM, or working memory. They can only handle so much at once. In this model, you have two types of load. Extrinsic load is the mental energy you waste just navigating the system, finding the file, figuring out vague instructions. Then there's germane load, which is the energy you spend on actual problem solving, the deep thinking, the creative stuff. The entire point of the friction reduction loop is to systematically crush the extrinsic load. By simplifying your tools and standardizing your processes, you free up all that precious mental bandwidth for the germane load, the work that actually matters. The second critical idea is something called the Zeigarnik effect. This is our brain's tendency to get stuck on unfinished tasks. Vague assignments or tasks that are waiting on information create these open loops in our brains. And these open loops create this constant low-level subconscious tension that just drains our mental energy. You know that nagging feeling you get when you have a dozen half-started things on your to-do list? That's the Zeigarnik effect in action. It's like having a bunch of apps running in the background on your phone, just silently draining the battery. Well, those perfect input guardrails we just talked about, they are the direct antidote. By ensuring every task is clear and complete from the start, you close those cognitive loops, and you give your team the huge psychological relief that comes from truly being able to call something.
Okay, we have covered a lot of ground. We've defined the problem of the wellness trap, we've talked about its root cause, cognitive drag, we've introduced the solution, the friction reduction loop, and we've even looked at the neuroscience behind it. Now, it's time to get practical. Let's translate all of this theory into concrete, actionable steps you can take to move from just understanding this stuff to actually mastering it in your organization.
So the big question is, where do you begin? How do you start this journey from being a reactive manager of chaos to becoming a proactive architect of flow? An architect of flow understands their main job isn't just to manage tasks, but to intentionally design the systems that let their team do their best work. It's about creating an environment where focus is the default and friction is the exception. And it all starts with 3 clear initial actions.
Here are your first 3 moves. Number 1, execute that cognitive switching audit we talked about. Be ruthless. If tools don't talk to each other and serve a critical purpose, get rid of them. 2, identify your approval bottlenecks. Find out where work always gets stuck waiting for one person's decision, and then design clear guardrails that empower your team to move forward without needing permission for every little thing. And 3, start measuring energy to output. Shift your focus from did we get it done to how much mental effort did it take to get it done. You can even have your team rate the friction level of tasks on a simple 1 to 5 scale. That data will show you exactly where your biggest load leaks are. And this right here shows you what success looks like. You'll know you're winning when the metrics on the left start turning into the metrics on the right. High Slack activity, which is usually a sign of disorganized communication, becomes low Slack activity. That doesn't mean you ban chat. It just means important work has moved to more structured channels. Constant, draining status meetings get replaced by clean, automated dashboards that give everyone the info they need without breaking their flow. And of course, missed deadlines are replaced by a steady, predictable increase in throughput. You're actually achieving more with less noise, less stress, and way less friction. This all brings us to the final, and I think the most important insight of operational load management. See, this isn't just a business strategy or some productivity hack. It's a fundamentally human-centric philosophy. It's about recognizing that your team is your most valuable asset, and that it is your core job as a leader to architect an environment where they can thrive, not just survive. It really means putting your people's cognitive well-being at the very center of your operational design. Because ultimately, and if you remember one thing, remember this, efficiency is a humanitarian act. It's applying cold, hard systems engineering to the very warm and profound reality of protecting human potential. It's recognizing that you cannot scale a business by breaking the people inside of it. When you design a low-friction path, you're not just making it easier to hit targets. You are giving your team back their energy. You're protecting their creativity. You are giving them the mental space they need to do the work they are truly passionate about. So the ultimate goal here is this: to build a system where incredible work happens not because people are being pushed harder and harder, but because the machine supporting them is so silent and so smooth that it just disappears into the background. That is the art of operational load management. That is how you transform from a manager of chaos into an architect of flow. So I'll leave you with this question. What is one small change you can make this week to reduce the cognitive drag on your team and start building a more human-centric system?